back, and we have someone new with us.
Yep, we do. We have with us today the dramaturg extraordinaire from Killing Game. Karen Kawa is a beloved ensemble member at A Red Orchid Theater, and she's a fabulous genius costume designer. And then one day she came up to me and she said, I would like to dramaturg and Killing Game. And I was like, what? Okay. And then we had some amazing conversations, and here she is.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm so fortunate to be able to be a part of Red Orchid, and then also to wear a different hat on the Killing Game. It was a gorgeous way to look over the script and delve a little bit deeper into the mind of Eugene Ionesco, and help bring this beautiful play, beautiful and tragic and intense and unbelievable, this play to life with
I was really
Dado.
excited about you, like all the research that you always do as a costume designer, then getting it applied in a different way was really exciting. So
yeah,
thank
it was
you.
exciting to go down the rabbit holes too. I mean, that's the thing I think with work like Ionesco, with any work really, but especially with his type of work.
Yeah.
Down a rabbit hole.
Well, this panel is called Food in a Pandemic.
Yeah, facing insecurity. And with that, we have a young woman named Grace Radzik joining us from Lakeview Pantry. Grace is the manager of corporate and foundation partnerships, and she'll tell you a little bit more about what she actually does when she joined us. But I just want you to know that Grace began volunteering with Lakeview Pantry in 2017, and then moved into a full-time position there in 2018. Her favorite part of being the manager of corporate and foundation partnerships is getting to know all of the wonderful community members and organizations that support Lakeview Pantry. And I'm excited for her to tell you more about that in person.
Woo, here we go.
Here we go.
Okay.
Cool. Grace, this is Karen Kawa, who on my
Grace.
screen is just above you. I know it's different on everybody's screen. And Karen was the dramaturg on this particular production, and is also a fabulous costume designer.
Oh, wonderful.
The genius.
And sometimes people don't know what a dramaturg is. Dramaturg is somebody who is charged with sometimes connecting story plots pieces, but also but more so on this production with contextualizing the play.
This play is written by an absurd playwright. He is from Serbia, but he lived in France, and so it was written in the French language, and it's one of his later plays. And the playwright's name is Ionesco, Eugene Ionesco. And because it's absurd, it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense on the page. It's up to the actors and the designers and the director to really make it sort of somehow vibrate in front of humans. And then when the pandemic broke out, the actual play came true on so many levels that we felt like we needed to maybe address that to our subscribers and our fans and people who come see our plays. And then we really wanted to do that in a way that was, so we could continue to build relationships in these communities. And so that's how you got here. And so you're awesome.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, no, I love the idea behind this. I think it's really cool to connect art to real life, that what's happening right now, so I love it. I love the idea, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you for inviting me.
Now, and then we'll watch the clip and have some conversation with Grace and Karen.
Here we go.
I repeat, I cannot do anything for you.
We're out of flour. There's no more sugar.
There's not a drop of oil. I can't do anything. Start saving. You know very well we have no more access to fresh food. We are besieged. We are stuck. I cannot get oil for you. I cannot do it myself. I cannot become the sugar.
In our district, the lower district, we're dying from hunger as much as from the disease.
More so from hunger.
So it's the usual.
There's food in the wealthy district.
The wealthy districts have food. They aren't missing anything.
That's because they know they need it to save. They didn't eat all their food at once like the gluttonous people that you are. They put some aside. That's why they still have some now.
They have enough to save. They can hold on to the things for as long as they want.
They're privileged. It's better to die of hunger than of the disease.
Let's share the extras. I'd rather die of the disease.
Let's share.
It's against the law. The administration does not allow the transport of food from one district to another.
We want bread.
We see a potentially violent moment erupting. This is towards the end of Killing Game, which is about 17 scenes long. And the town is, as you heard, divided up into districts, and these people from the hungrier districts are wanting to eat this man, or they're about to attack this man who's from one of the wealthier districts.
They begin by demanding food from, I remember him saying, or we hear him at the beginning of that saying, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't turn myself into sugar, or I can't manufacture food. And it isn't until the end that then they start suggesting, well, maybe we'll just eat you. But more so they're, realizing how the inequities between the different districts and where there is resource and where there's not.
I definitely see a bit of a similarity between, the city being split up into districts and there being more resources in certain districts than in others. The same scenario is very true for the city of Chicago. Certain neighborhoods have a lot of resources and certain neighborhoods don't have a lot of resources. And that disparity it's true, it's here. And it's not as extreme as what we see in the play. It's not, brought out as extreme as we see in the play with the violence. But it's a very real reality for the city of Chicago. And we're seeing that, hunger exists in every neighborhood in the city, but some certain neighborhoods have more resources like food pantries, where people have access to the charitable food system, and some neighborhoods that don't. And so at Lakeview Pantry, that's one of our strategic goals right now, is to be able to expand our services into those neighborhoods that maybe don't have those food distribution points, where the charity food system is harder to access for those individuals and those residents. And so that's part of what we're trying to do right now is move into those sorts of communities, into areas, partnering with other agencies that are already working there, and just bringing the food in to help people, have access to healthy food.
Do we use the word district in Chicago? Is Chicago divided into districts in terms of what Lakeview Food Pantry does, or how does it work?
So we kind of more look at it as a neighborhood instead of like the districts of the wards and that kind of thing. We definitely work with the aldermen in the areas that we're in, but really we look at it more of neighborhoods. That's really how Chicago defines itself, as the city of neighborhoods, and each neighborhood is truly unique. So that's more of how we look at it, is by neighborhood. And of course that means, regions of the city as well. The north side is obviously very wealthy, where the west side and the south side don't have as many resources.
Hey, well, Karen, you and Dado, this scene that we looked at was not originally part of the original script that we had, and there are so clearly it was omitted from many publishings of this play and perhaps many productions. Did you in your research, was there any evidence of why that it was omitted?
I didn't find any. There are two English translations, the one that we used, and then there was another one that actually the US premiere of the play was done at Arena Stage in around 1975, and it was actually called the Wipeout Games, and that was a completely different translator. But there isn't, I was not able to find a script for that.
Yeah.
So if it was omitted, I don't know.
Yeah.
The first production for the script, the English script that we used was, I want to say it was around 1990 something. I apologize for not knowing that date.
And what actually happened was we, Kawa and I felt like we would be better served if we had our own translation, because over the summer of 2018, the year before I got to direct this play, I worked on Victims of Duty, which is also another Ionesco play. And I did a lot of translating for that director, Shira Piven, because I was the assistant director on that. And so seeing how this director, Shira Piven, who's amazing, was using the translations and the words so closely made me, when I was talking to Karen, we were like, well, maybe we should have our own. And so we went to the DePaul University and to the French department there, and we asked them if they would and the professor there, Clara Orban, loved the idea because they needed a project for her master students, her grad students. And so it's called Jeu de Massacre in French.
Mhm.
And then we went there to meet with the students, and they said, well, there's a scene here that, are you going to do this scene? And we were like, what scene? And they're like, the cannibal scene. And me and Kawa were like,
What?
What are you talking about?
I was like, give me this scene right now. Then we read
But it really, like of all of the scenes, to me, like the way that the play sort of lays out, you know, there's, as Dado said, 17, it's a collection basically of 17 scenes that and basically in every scene, everybody dies. It's called Killing Game. And there's, you know, and so you sort of, there is the absurdity of watching people die over and over again. And then I there is something where I feel like that this discovered scene, this cannibal scene, for lack of a better word, was like the most extreme or the most absurd.
But perhaps omitted because people were not dying from the virus or the plague. They were dying, the unnamed disease. They were dying because they started to
Kill each other.
And this scene that we just watched goes on. It's like 4 little scenelets that become more and more disturbing. And I also think that it may have been removed because it provided an arc in the play, whereas up until that point, if you just look at the play on paper, it really is not a play with a journey, like a trajectory. It's just like a bunch of scenes of how people are reacting in a little town about a plague. There is a scene earlier, Grace, in the play, which we featured in a previous panel, where they are people from one district are trying to move food into another district, and you know, it's like one of the actors is carrying a bunch of food and they're confronting each other, and so there is a little bit of food in the play before this scene, but this scene is really where it becomes more prominent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you know, the absurdity that comes with, you know, this scene and everything, you know, kind of what we touched on a little bit earlier, that hunger does affect you in more than one way. You know, it doesn't just make your stomach hurt because you're hungry. Hunger is, you know, it doesn't exist on its own. People don't wake up one day and just realize that they're hungry. There's lots of other things that went into that and led to that. And, you know, living in poverty, living in financial instability, it is traumatic, and you know, it is trauma. And, you know, the feelings of, you know, not knowing if you're going to have food, where are you going to get that food? You know, it causes a lot of anxiety for people. And then, you know, just dealing with the fact that you don't have enough resources for yourself and for your family, you know, causes, you know, depression, depressive thoughts, all of that. So, you know, the situation of why people are led to being hungry, you know, in the play, it was a plague that happened, and now everybody is in search for food. And, you know, during COVID, kind of similar, not a plague necessarily, but, you know, this deadly virus that was coming out, a lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of people have found themselves you know, needing to come to places like a food pantry for the very first time, and they don't know what to do with that. A lot of people are embarrassed that they have to come to a food pantry. A lot of people are ashamed to tell their kids where they're getting their food from. So it's a tricky balance. You know, it isn't just about getting food in your belly. It's really recognizing the situation that you're in, and, you know, how do we get you out of that situation? And Lakeview Pantry's approach is, you know, food is one of our basic human needs. It has to be met before other more ambitious needs can be met. So along with shelter and connection, you know, food is one of the basics. So we get people into our door by filling that need. You can't go hungry for more than, you know, a certain amount of time before, you know, you're sick, you're dying, your health is really in trouble. So we get people in the door by providing them with food, but then we have a whole program of social services and mental health counseling that we can offer our clients at the same time. So they come in for food, and we say, you know, are you interested in getting connected with any other resources?
I had no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's kind of our best kept secret at Lakeview Pantry. But the program, you know, it's been growing, especially during COVID. We're seeing a lot of people wanting to sign up for food stamps, trying to navigate unemployment. They've never had to before. Housing assistance, financial assistance, all of the above. So Lakeview Pantry, we do a lot of it in-house, and we have a huge bank of partners that we work with across the city for different specialized social services. So if it's housing, if it's employment, you know, if it's a shelter for somewhere to stay, we keep these partners very close to us so that if we can't help you solve your challenge right now, we can make sure you're connected with the right people, the right organization to get that done.
Okay, so
wonderful.
describe what you do. Like, can you just describe it to us? It's a mystery to all of us, really, what goes on and how it operates.
Yeah, definitely. So my role as the manager of corporate and foundation partnerships, I do a lot of corporate relations. So I'm reaching out to different businesses, whether they're local or, you know, big corporations, and partnering with them to have an impact on the community through Lakeview Pantry. So whether that's their monetary donations, whether it's, you know, employee engagement, we're getting people to come in and volunteer for our programs. That's my specific role is working with businesses to connect them with our agency. Lakeview Pantry as a whole, you know, we go out, we source food from a lot of different areas. A lot of what we're doing is actually food rescue. So if you think about there's two food systems really in the United States. There's the choice system, which is where you and I go to the grocery store, we can pick whatever we want. Basically, whatever we want is available at some type of store that we can go to. The other system is the charity system, which is the food pantries, the food banks, the shelters, the soup kitchens, where you can't just go and whatever you want is available to you. You have to just take what you're given a lot of times. So Lakeview Pantry really, we realize that people in the charity system don't have a lot of choice. So we do what we can to give them as much choice as possible. So we partner with grocery stores, wholesalers, retail partners, and we go around and rescue the food that they would normally be throwing out. So we can, oftentimes we're getting pallets and pallets of produce, you know, the sandwiches and the salads and things that you see at the grocery store, and it says sell by date. And, you know, the sell by date is when they want to get it off their shelf, not necessarily when the food is going bad. So we get all of that stuff that they can't sell anymore, and it's good for up to 3 days. So we can still give those out to individuals and families. So we're bringing in as much food as we can, rescuing it. We have 4 vans and 1 box truck that is in our fleet, and they drive out all across the city, sometimes even out to the suburbs to just pick up food donations and bring it back.
Yeah.
We also, go ahead.
Sorry, and then how big a part of your supply comes from like drives from companies, or, you know, like I know there is a food drive for Lakeview Pantry this weekend at Ginger Man Tavern.
Yes.
That kind of thing.
Yeah. So about 83% of all of the food that we distribute is donated. Of that 83%, about 10 to 12% comes from individuals and companies doing food drives. Most of it is coming from our grocery store partners and our wholesale
Rescue.
partners.
Rescue.
Trader Joe's is actually our biggest. Trader Joe's and Costco are our biggest in-kind donors. Trader Joe's has been #1 for many years. They
That's
are
good to know.
excellent partners. Yeah.
I learned this new word, food rescue.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's an awesome program that we do. It's you know, companies will buy food for different reasons and then not need all of it. Whether it's that they're hosting a staff holiday party for, 150 people, and then they have extra hamburger buns and hot dog buns or whatever that are still closed up, but they can't use it, so they'll contact Lakeview Pantry. Hey, can you guys use this? Of course we can. We'll come and pick it up.
Mhm.
The grocery stores like Trader Joe's, Jewel Osco, Mariano's, Whole Foods, all of those, Target, all of those guys are our partners. We go and we pick up food from all of them. So we really do what we can to get a variety of food out to our neighbors.
You mentioned something a bit earlier, and I'm curious to know, like, what are the biggest, I guess, not barriers is the right word, but barriers or walls or blocks to people accessing help in where food insecurity is concerned. I guess that, yeah, if you could say a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. So, of course, one barrier is location and transportation. So there are areas of Chicago that are considered food deserts where there's not a grocery store or a place to access fresh food. That means produce, that means protein, that means stuff that will spoil in your refrigerator. Access to that stuff is not available in certain areas of Chicago. You can, of course, go to the local bodega or corner store and get, a can of beans or some vegetables or whatever, those shelf stable items. But the fresh food is really the key, the important part. So location is a big one. Transportation, of course, is another big one. People just can't get to where they need to go to access food. A lot of it is just awareness as well. People don't know that services are available, or if they are available, they don't know that they're eligible to use them. So it's just awareness of programs as well. I would say another, I had it in my head. Transportation, location, mobility is another one. We have a whole program for, it's called the Home Delivery Program, and it focuses on homebound individuals that are homebound either due to age or illness or disability or whatever. So if for any reason you can't come to the pantry physically and bring home your groceries, our home delivery program runs on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and it will deliver groceries to individuals. So mobility and definitely is definitely a challenge for a huge population of people, especially older adults. That they're living on fixed income. They can't afford to just order groceries, but they can't physically travel to a pantry, wait in line, get their food, and then come home.
What do they do? Do they have to sign up for a mobile situation?
Yeah, so they just contact the pantry. We have a home-based coordinator that runs the program. She checks in with each client, makes sure that they have documentation that says, they really can't come to the pantry to do it. And, we just sign them up for the program. That program is really unique. It has a couple different menu options. So because a lot of people that are served by that program are facing chronic illnesses as well. So we have a diabetic friendly menu. We have a low sodium, heart healthy menu, a vegetarian menu, and then of course a regular menu that you can get through the home delivery program. So really focusing on the health needs of individuals as well, and trying to make it as customized as we can.
You may have said this already, but how many people do you estimate the Lakeview Pantry feeds?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I'll give you two answers. Prior to COVID, so before all of this happened, we were serving about 10 to 12,000 individuals every year. This year obviously has been very different. We have really expanded our efforts and just we've been so busy this year with increased demand that we are on track to serve 150,000 individuals a year.
So like triple.
Oh my word.
More than triple. Yeah. We, during the peak of the COVID, over the summer response, we were up 400% in demand. And that was week over week over week. We were seeing continuously a 400% increase in demand. Right now, today, during the holiday season, we're still serving 200% over what we were last year. So we've just seen huge amounts of increases across all of our programs.
Have you seen increases in donations as well?
Yes, we
Okay.
have. Yeah, Lakeview Pantry
Good.
has been very fortunate that our communities have really shown up for their neighbors, and those that have been able to donate their money, they have. And we have been very fortunate. A lot of companies have been very generous. A lot of COVID response funds popped up that Lakeview Pantry was able to apply for, get funding from. So yes, our communities really have been showing up. But of course, every dollar counts, and we don't see that this need is going to go away. COVID numbers are ramping back up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
the hardest month at Lakeview Pantry? What's the hardest month?
November and December during the holidays.
Mm.
Typically, and we did it again this year, which we're super proud of ourselves that we were able to pull it off with how much increased demand. But every November, we give out a turkey to every family that comes to Lakeview Pantry for a nice holiday meal. So they get a turkey during their monthly distribution during November, and then for December they get a ham or another turkey if they prefer another turkey. So really November and December with the big holiday, holidays people celebrate with big meals with their families a lot of time, and especially Thanksgiving, especially Christmas. So these winter holidays that are big family meal time situations, that's when we're seeing the most increased need. And like I said, right now we're serving 200% more. This year, in 2020, our hardest month was probably April, because that's when we were seeing the most effect of, stimulus checks were starting to run out and people were losing their jobs still and not knowing what to do and still finding that there was a resource out there for them. So it's been a unique year for sure.
Yeah. And it feels like more to come in terms of that unique, like hard to predict year.
Definitely.
With, I would imagine, a lot of people's unemployment starting, weeks starting to run out come the new year. And hopefully, here's fingers crossed for another, some kind of stimulus package or support, relief package.
I thought it would be January that would be the hardest. Huh.
Yeah.
Ever thought. Yeah.
I have a question about, and this is kind of for Kawa as well, like dealing with the play and the way the play handles information and misinformation, and I guess when listening to you talk about all this, I'm wondering what are the most common myths about hunger. I'm also really interested in the long-term effects of systemic hunger on your mental health as well. But in the play as well, there's a lot of moments where people cannot figure out what is happening, right? Like there's so much, there's a great deal of confusion and people lying and spreading information that, in our world today, it's called alternative facts, but Ionesco didn't really use that particular language. But watching the people in the play in Killing Game compete for food and for access to different districts or access to different neighborhoods, and they're like, I'm thinking back to Doug and Dano's scene that we showed in the first in the first panel. And how they're so angry at each other from the two different districts, but they're, you know, and how that competition and that sort of ferocity, how ferocious people come when their needs increase, you know? And I guess, I mean, I don't have those articles fresh in my head that you sent me, Kawa, but I know that he brought that up a little bit. Ionesco did, because he was also really interested in human nature and human behavior.
You know, I mean, I guess I'm mostly struck with the research that where Ionesco was at the time of his life when he wrote this play. So it was towards the end of his life. And also the fact that the play was actually first done in Germany, and Ionesco was political, sorry, but a huge anti-Nazi, and he was really struck at a very young age. I want to say he was between 8 and 13 when Hitler took hold of Germany, and he was so incredibly just, it transformed him and I think how he saw the world. And so I think that this play is a lot about watching that take hold to watching Nazism take hold in Europe, and all the misinformation and all the lies and how it completely destroyed people's lives in Europe.
Yeah.
I think, you know, one of the biggest misleading things, or you know, misleading and misinformation about food pantries, and, you know, really just the whole social services sector in general, is that the people that come to a food pantry, oh, they're homeless, right? And that's not the case. It's, you know, whenever I'm explaining to somebody that doesn't really know a lot about what a food pantry is, what I do, that's the first question that they ask me. Oh, so do you only serve people who are experiencing homelessness? And no, I mean, that is, of course we do. Of course we serve people who are experiencing homelessness, but that's a very small fraction of the people that we serve. The majority of people that we serve are working households that are, you know, cut to part-time, or have medical bills that they have to pay, or, you know, they have kids and they can't buy school supplies and food and pay rent. So, you know, a lot of the people and a lot of the families that we're serving and that are coming to Lakeview Pantry for food are people that we work with, that we go to school with, that we see every day in our neighborhood. It's not just, you know, those who are experiencing homelessness that are coming and accessing help. It's families. It's people that are sending their kids to school every day and going to work, and, you know, sitting next to you, and you have no idea what they're struggling with at home. So that's, you know, a huge misconception, is just who a food pantry can help. And I think that it's very detrimental to those that are eligible, you know, and could benefit from the services that a food pantry has. But the idea behind it is that it's for only a certain type of person that's in a certain, you know, experiencing a certain thing right now. And that's just not the case. So if there was, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know, if there was more accurate information about who is accessing food at a food pantry or a food bank, more people that could benefit from that service would more likely come.
So one of the other barriers is likely stigma, much like it is in people being willing to access mental health services as well.
Totally. And I think that, you know, going back to the whole political aspect of it, you know, I think that it's really important to note that the welfare queens, or, you know, you know, why should my tax dollars go to this guy who just doesn't want to get a job? Or, you know, I'm not going to do that. If he could get a job, he wouldn't. He would just rather stay on benefits or whatever. And that's a huge misconception. That is totally not true. The people that are coming to us have been searching for a job for 6 months and can't find one. or, you know, they are forced to stay at 37 hours a week so that they can't get full-time benefits and have to pay for health insurance on top of everything else.
Or working full-time and not being paid a living wage.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. Working full time, you know, them and their spouse are working full time and not making a livable wage for their family. So that's a huge misconception too. And that's a huge reason that a lot of people don't access benefits that are available to them. And we see this cycle of poverty. It is stigma, you know, definitely, where, you know, these people are, certain people have the viewpoint of, oh, I just don't want to take care of others. And so other, you know, those people are saying, well, I don't want to just, you know, sponge off the government. And that's not what it is. If you need help, if you need resources, there are programs put in place to give you those resources. That's why they exist. And it's not that you're, you know, sponging off the government. It's that you are in a situation where you're not making a livable wage and you need some resources to have all your needs met. And so that's just a huge, and politics plays a huge role into that. I find that it's very, you know, people butt heads a lot on this. And
you know,
fortunately, COVID has kind of changed that. A lot of people that never thought they'd be in this situation are, and they realize it's not such a bad thing. But, you know, that's not the case with everybody.
But that's empowering. That's very good to know that there's people out there who have had to really face this and walk up to it and maybe have a deeper understanding of what it is.
Yeah, totally. But, you know,
It's sensational.
yes, of course. But working at a food pantry, I mean, my eyes have even been opened up to the realities of who comes to a food pantry. It's everybody. You see, you know, I've seen people that, you know, I live in Lakeview as well. So just from the neighborhood, I'll see people walking their dogs or do this or do that or whatever. And then I'll see them as a client at the food pantry. And I'm like, I had no idea, but you know, but that's why Lakeview Pantry exists, because everyday people that are not, you know, taking advantage of the system, that really, you know, just need a little extra help, can get it.
How do people get involved? Like, what are the ways that we can support Lakeview Pantry? I imagine, but you know, certainly volunteerism.
Yes.
And getting involved that way is one way.
Yeah, definitely volunteering. We need all the help we can get right now. It is a very busy time, and you know, there are a lot of individuals that don't feel comfortable coming to volunteer, or there's certain, whether it's themselves that's high risk, someone in their household, someone in their family. So right now during this time, you know, if you're healthy and able-bodied, we could definitely use the help.
I didn't even think of that. COVID's probably put a huge.
Well, that's why I asked. How do you?
Yeah. And a lot of our volunteer base is retirees. So we've seen a lot of our regular volunteers that just aren't able to come in right now, which we totally understand. We want people to stay safe. We want people to stay home. You know, make the right choice for yourself. But if you're able-bodied, if you're healthy, if you're able to and comfortable coming out and volunteering, we could definitely use the help. All of our orientations are happening virtually. You can just go to lakeviewpantry.org/volunteer, or you can just send a direct email to volunteers with an S, volunteers@lakeviewpantry.org. And we can help get you signed up. There's 6 days a week. We have shifts available, and there's 4 different locations across the city that shifts are available at. So definitely check out the website. Of course, donations, you know, every dollar can provide 8 meals through Lakeview Pantry. So
every dollar can provide 8 meals.
Yes.
What?
Yes. So $1 equals 8 meals. You know, we work with so many different wholesalers and retailers and purchase things at such deep discounts that, you know, $1 at the grocery store is not going to go as far as $1 at Lakeview Pantry does. We can really stretch that dollar rather far. You know, much further than you can at the grocery store. So of course, money donations are always helpful. And you can go to lakeviewpantry.org/donate.
You're saying $10 feeds 80 people. Oh
Yes.
my gosh.
That's crazy. That's awesome. You at Lakeview Pantry are celebrating an anniversary this year. I believe it is your 50th year.
Yes, it is our 50th year. What started with 2 neighbors, a wagon, and Treasure Island has grown into this amazing organization that I work for today, Lakeview Pantry. Yes, in 1970, it was a few women got together, a few college students, and started what was known as the People's Pantry of Lakeview. And throughout the 50 years, we have grown into this amazing organization. We threw a virtual event in November to kind of commemorate. And so if you go to YouTube and you look for Lakeview Pantry, some of our videos from that event are up. And one of them is like a timeline throughout the years. So it goes from 1970 and has some photos, and then it goes through all the decades and shows kind of the timeline and progression of Lakeview Pantry. It's very cool.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Watching that first clip was so unbelievably, or watching the clip was so emotional.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's how important theater is, and the huge gap that theater, not having live theater has left in our lives, and also in the lives of other. It's just like Grace said about the people in the hospitality that came to Lakeview Pantry, and how the lack of theater has impacted the hospitality industry as well, and tourism. And it's just how important it is, and how taking one piece out of a picture can impact everyone so tremendously, and really how we're all dependent on one another. Yeah, the domino effect, exactly.
Yeah, we really like taking those out. We really do have, it really does have real world effects, and having something like Lakeview Pantry accessible to people has real tangible effects, not just in the moment, you know.
I'm so grateful that, I mean, I'm not grateful for the pandemic, but in a very indirect way, like I would have never learned so much about Lakeview Pantry if we hadn't have been confronted with this horrible dilemma. And so, you know, that's a funny paradox in a very Ionesco-ian way. You know, he has a funny way of, you know, bringing these things into your in front of your face. I mean, I wasn't drawn to Killing Game because of necessarily the disease. I was drawn to it because of the way the society and the community behaved in the throes of the crisis, in the throes of fear. And fear is so much what we're talking about today. We're talking about food insecurity, or people not understanding what, you know, long-term effects of hunger in a family, or, you know, can mean. So that's it's fascinating. I mean, it's not absurd.
No, I mean, the more conversations we have, the less absurd this play becomes.
It's deeply human.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wowza.
Thank you for joining us. That was a great look into the inside of what a food pantry does.
Yeah. And all the different, and the fact that they just aren't, well, I learned today when I spoke with Grace earlier, and then again today, or just this evening, that they don't just do the food pantry thing. They are not just a food pantry. They are a whole social service organization that connects people with mental health services, with housing, with counseling, with unemployment, with all of that paperwork that needs to be done, and all of that. So,
and I learned that every dollar feeds 8 people. That's incredible.
8 meals.
8 meals. Yeah. What a resourceful, efficient organization. They got it down to a science. this has been a very gratifying experience, this panel series, this series of interviews that we've done. And hopefully you heard in the interview how you can support the many ways you can support and interact with the Lakeview Food Pantry and all the layers of that organization. And I encourage you out there to do so if you're feeling like that's your jam.
Yeah, jump online and look up lakeviewpantry.org.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of ways.
What did she say? 150,000 people they're going to be taken care of, which is up from about 15,000, I think. So just, you know, every little bit helps. $1 helps. So think about it. Think about this. And also just remember that if you can support Red Orchid at this time of year, you know, these interviews, we have to pay for them. So please consider donating money to Red Orchid. If you're feeling Christmassy or like you want to, you know, send some money to us, that would be fantastic.
We're going to make some more stuff in the new year for everybody.
Gotta keep making stuff.
We're excited about it. We cannot wait to see you in the theater again soon. But in the meantime, we're going to make some stuff for you here.
If you have more people or ideas or things that you would like us to interview or talk to, please send them to us. Please send them to A Red Orchid. Email Abigail Madden, our managing director. And, you know, we've been able to pull together some fascinating people to interview. So if you have ideas out there, send them to us and maybe we can pull it off.
Yeah, especially if there's like a connection between a play that we did and something that makes you think of an organization that we should be connected to, or that you would like to see us interview.
Yeah, talk to us. Tell us what we need, what you need to see. Okay.
Yep. All right, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.